Have you ever looked up at the night sky and wondered if someone might be looking back at you? Not humans with telescopes, not satellites blinking in orbit, but them, whoever they are. If aliens exist, what would they actually look like? Would they be tall, glowing, dripping with slime, or would they be so boringly ordinary that you'd pass them in a grocery store without noticing? Welcome to the quiet universe. And tonight we're going to float gently through one of humanity's favorite questions. If life is out there, how would it appear? And while we do that, you can let yourself drift. Breathe slowly, and maybe even imagine your own cosmic neighbors before sleep catches you. Now, here's the first little spoiler. They almost definitely don't look like Hollywood says they do. Sorry to the big-eyed grey aliens with smooth heads. You had a good run on movie posters, but nature rarely repeats the same template twice. Think about Earth for a moment. Even on one single planet, life comes in endless shapes. Tall giraffes with necks that look like stretched accordions, fish that glow like neon signs in the deep sea, birds with beaks like swords, and fungi that look like brains spilled onto a log. If Earth alone can be that diverse, imagine the options when you add thousands of other planets, millions, billions. So, let's start with the basics. Aliens would have to deal with physics, just like we do. Gravity pulls on them, air or liquid surrounds them. Energy has to be gathered somehow. So right away, they'll be shaped by their home world. On a small planet with weak gravity, creatures might grow tall and fragile, towering like living sculptures. On a massive planet with crushing gravity, bodies would likely stay low and compact, sturdy, maybe crawling rather than walking, like cosmic bulldogs. Then there's the atmosphere. On a planet thick with methane, maybe life would evolve with lungs that process methane instead of oxygen, giving them a constant faint chemical glow. On a water world, life might never crawl onto land at all, instead becoming endless varieties of jellyfish, squid, or something so alien we'd struggle to describe it without comparing it to wiggly noodles. And here's the twist. Even senses might be completely different. On Earth, we rely on sight, sound, taste, touch, smell. But what if another world favors magnetism? Imagine creatures that navigate not by eyes, but by feeling magnetic fields ripple through their bodies. To them, our obsession with vision would seem primitive, like cavemen playing with shadows. Now, one of the funniest ironies is that if aliens exist, they might not be biological at all. Think about it. We're already building artificial intelligence, machines that can learn and speak. Give a few thousand more years, and Earth itself might be home not to humans, but to machine descendants. So why wouldn't another civilization have done the same? The first aliens we meet could be cold, metallic probes, drifting through space long after their creators vanished, which is both depressing and kind of poetic. But let's get back to the fun, because people always ask, would aliens look humanoid? You know, 2 legs, 2 arms, 1 head with a pair of eyes staring at you judgmentally. And honestly, maybe, but probably not in the way we think. Symmetry is useful, it helps with balance, it keeps things organized. So many creatures across the galaxy might indeed be symmetrical. 2 sides, mirrored parts, it's efficient, but 4 arms, 6? Why not? An octopus already has 8 limbs and manages just fine, so aliens might look like elegant dancers with multiple arms flowing, or like scuttling creatures with too many legs for our comfort. And eyes. Oh yes, everyone fixates on eyes. But remember, some Earth animals see in ultraviolet, others see heat, some don't have eyes at all. Aliens might have clusters of tiny eyes like a spider, or 1 enormous eye like a living telescope, or they could sense light through their skin, glowing softly as the sun rises. Now let's drift for a moment into an alien ocean world. Picture a planet covered entirely by water, no land at all. Life here would be aquatic from the beginning. You'd see creatures shaped like ribbons floating endlessly, translucent forms the size of whales but delicate as glass. Some might communicate with pulses of bioluminescence. entire bodies flashing like slow fireworks under the waves. It would be breathtaking and completely unreachable. Now imagine a desert planet, scorching sun, endless dunes, thin atmosphere. Life here might hide underground, pale, eyeless creatures that surface only at night, or perhaps thick-skinned lizards with reflective shells, gleaming like living mirrors to bounce the sunlight away. Camouflage would be everything. Survival would mean blending into sand and stone until you're invisible. Of course, there's always the nightmare option, life so bizarre we wouldn't even recognize it as alive. Imagine clouds of particles drifting in magnetic storms, creatures made of plasma swirling like lightning that refuses to dissipate, or massive mats of alien fungus spreading across a planet's surface, one single organism the size of a continent, too slow to notice but undeniably alive. And then there's size. Aliens could be microscopic, tinier than dust motes, thriving in places no human could survive. Or they could be colossal, floating balloon-like beings the size of skyscrapers, drifting in the skies of gas giants, creatures so large they'd look like mountains, except they'd breathe and move. But here's the real kicker. Maybe aliens wouldn't look strange at all. Maybe they'd look ordinary, almost disappointingly so. Imagine meeting beings with bodies not unlike ours, arms, legs, a face. Because once evolution stumbles on a design that works, nature often repeats it. Wings for flight, fins for swimming, eyes for light. Patterns show up again and again, not because they're magical, but because physics doesn't offer infinite choices. Still, even if they looked familiar, their cultures, their minds, their ways of living would be unimaginably different, because looks are just the wrapper. What's inside, the way a being thinks, the way it feels, that's where the true alien lies. So if aliens existed, what would they actually look like? They could be glowing squids, crawling beetles, shimmering clouds, robotic wanderers, or disappointingly average neighbors. But in every case, they'd still be part of the same universe, shaped by the same rules, built out of the same stardust as us. So now that we've floated through alien shapes and skins, let's drift a little deeper into how they might experience their world, because beauty isn't only in how something looks, it's also in how it perceives. Here on Earth, we live in a very narrow sensory bubble. We see a thin slice of light, we hear a narrow range of sound, we touch, taste, smell, and that's it. But aliens, oh, they could have entire libraries of senses that we can't even imagine. Take bees, for example. They see ultraviolet light, flowers glow with hidden patterns for them, invisible billboards that we'll never notice without special cameras. Or sharks, they sense electric fields. Every twitch of a fish is like a beacon calling them closer. Or migratory birds, quietly using Earth's magnetic field like a compass they carry in their heads. So if aliens exist, maybe they don't even see the way we do. Maybe they perceive the world as vibrations in magnetic waves. Or maybe they hear radiation, pulsing through them like a melody. Perhaps they swim through clouds of chemicals, tasting the air with every movement, like painting reality with flavors instead of colors. Imagine living in a world where blue doesn't exist, but iron-rich air with a hint of sulfur is your normal description of beauty. We'd call it strange, they'd just call it home. And what about communication? Here we use mouths and air, vibrations that our ears turn into words, but that's just one option. What if aliens communicate by light? Flashes of bioluminescence running across their skin like glowing tattoos. Messages written on their bodies, visible only at night. Or maybe they hum in frequencies too low for us to hear, entire conversations flowing beneath the rumble of planets and storms. Or maybe they don't use sound or light at all. Maybe thought itself is shared. Chemical clouds, pheromones drifting like invisible sentences in the air. Of course, that brings us to intelligence. We tend to imagine aliens as geniuses, little green professors of the cosmos, ready to teach us calculus. But what if they're not? What if alien life is alive but never developed technology? A planet could be teeming with colourful creatures, glowing forests, singing oceans, and not a single one cares about rockets or math. Would they still be alien? Absolutely. Would they still be beautiful? Even more so, because beauty doesn't require intelligence, just existence. But still, let's not leave out the idea of advanced civilizations, because that's where imaginations always run wild. If aliens built societies, what would they look like? Maybe they live in hives, millions of individuals working together like one organism. Or maybe they're solitary, each being self-sufficient, never needing anyone else. Maybe their cities aren't built of stone or metal, but grown. Forests cultivated into homes, glowing coral reefs sculpted into palaces. Maybe their technology isn't shiny spaceships, but biological. Ships that are alive, humming like whales, carrying their creators across the stars. And here's a quiet thought. Maybe the first aliens we meet won't be flesh at all, but machines. Because once a species invents technology, it's only a matter of time before they make something that outlasts them. If their sun dies, their machines might still drift, loyal, tireless, wandering the cosmos without a master. Imagine meeting an alien probe that has been alone for millions of years, still sending signals no one listens to, still carrying memories of a world long gone. Beautiful, sad, and yet comforting. Now, let's wander to alien bodies again, but with detail. Picture a creature on a heavy gravity world. It wouldn't walk tall like us. That would be wasteful. Instead, it would crawl low to the ground, legs thick and powerful, bones dense like steel. It might be covered in a hide smoother than rock, designed to resist crushing pressure. It wouldn't move quickly, but each step would be deliberate, like a living boulder. Now picture the opposite, a tiny planet with barely any gravity. Life here could float with fragile, balloon-like bodies, thin membranes catching even the faintest breeze. They might look like living kites, transparent, shimmering, drifting effortlessly through their skies, delicate but free. And gas giants. Oh, imagine the skies of Jupiter-like worlds, endless storms, thick clouds, no solid ground at all. What kind of life thrives there? Creatures like floating balloons, filled with lighter gases so they don't sink. Their bodies vast and soft, like flying whales drifting in the endless storms. They might never land, never crawl, never even know the concept of ground. Their entire existence would be the sky. Now here's a twist of irony. We always think of aliens as stranger than us, but maybe we are the strange ones. Two-legged, hairless, pinkish skin. Imagine describing humans to an alien. Oh yes, they balance awkwardly on just two limbs. They sweat constantly. They peel if they stand in the sun too long, and they cover their bodies with bits of cloth they call fashion. To them, we might look like the joke species, barely making it by, yet somehow thinking we're special. And here's the quiet wisdom of it. If aliens exist, they're still made of the same stardust we are. Their bones, shells, or strange exoskeletons would still be forged from elements born in stars. Their eyes, however different, would still be catching light that left a star millions of years ago. In a way, no matter how strange they look, we're already related. So what would aliens actually look like? Maybe insect-like, maybe fish-like, maybe so abstract we'd argue over whether they're even alive. But in their details, in their beauty, they'd reflect the same universe that shaped us. Different branches of the same tree. And here's a little thought to drift off on. Maybe the reason we haven't seen them yet is because we're looking for eyes and faces. But what if we've already passed them by? What if alien life doesn't look like life at all? What if it's the shimmering dust cloud in space, or the strange flicker in a nebula, or even the quiet rhythm of radio waves, life everywhere but hidden in plain sight? We've drifted through alien bodies, their senses, their possible shapes, but there's one question that always sneaks in when people talk about aliens. If they exist, and if they're intelligent, what would their civilizations look like? Now, here's the funny thing. When we imagine alien societies, we usually just project our own cities like ours, governments like ours, languages, wars, money, Netflix subscriptions. Basically, human problems painted green. But the universe doesn't repeat scripts so neatly. An alien civilization might be as familiar as a mirror, or as unrecognizable as a dream you forget as soon as you wake up. Let's start with something small: communication. How do intelligent beings talk to one another? Here, we push air through throats, wiggle tongues and lips, make vibrations. But there are endless ways to share information. Maybe aliens speak in colors, their skin flashing patterns like neon signs. Every conversation a light show. Maybe they exchange chemicals, clouds of scents and pheromones drifting like invisible ink between them. Or maybe they communicate with electricity, zapping tiny pulses into each other, conversations flowing in crackles and sparks. Imagine an argument, looking less like shouting and more like two beings glowing brighter and brighter until one gives in. And what about writing? We carve symbols on paper, pixels on screens, but aliens might grow their words in crystal formations or sing their history into the very structure of their DNA. A library might not be a building filled with books, but an entire forest, every tree humming with the memory of generations. Now let's drift towards something bigger: society. How would aliens organize themselves? Some might live like insects here on Earth, in hives, millions of individuals working like one mind, no single leader, no personal ambition, just the hive's purpose. From the outside, it would look like a vast living organism, cities built by instinct, not debate, peaceful maybe, or terrifyingly efficient, depending on your point of view. Others might be solitary. No families, no tribes, no nations, just individuals, each one self-sufficient, wandering a planet like lone monks. To us, it would look lonely, but to them, maybe it feels complete. And still, others might form groups that we can't even categorize, networks that aren't physical, but mental. Imagine a species where every mind is connected, where privacy doesn't exist, where thoughts flow freely like rivers. There would be no secrets, no lies, but also no individuality. Everyone, together, always. Would that be paradise or a nightmare? Depends who you ask. Now, civilizations also mean technology, but not every advanced society would build with metal and machines like we do. Some might grow their technology, cultivating living organisms that serve their needs. A spaceship could be a giant creature bred to travel between stars. Homes could be coral-like shells grown to shape, glowing with natural bioluminescence instead of electric light. Their world wouldn't clang with engines, it would hum and breathe with life. Others might skip biology entirely and become machines themselves, consciousness transferred into circuits, crystal lattices, or quantum patterns. A civilization of beings who no longer eat, sleep, or age, cold perhaps, but also enduring, able to drift through the universe long after stars themselves fade. And then there's the most alien possibility of all: civilizations that don't do technology. Imagine a species that's intelligent, thoughtful, maybe even wiser than us, but never cared about machines. They live in harmony with their planet. No cities, no rockets, just endless oral traditions, philosophy, art. Would we call them primitive? Or would they call us foolish for chasing shiny toys while forgetting how to simply exist? Now let's think about art, because where there's intelligence, there's always some form of expression. Here, we paint. Maybe they sculpt in dimensions we can't perceive. To us, it looks like a lump of rock, but to them, it's a masterpiece unfolding in colors we'll never see. Maybe their music isn't sound, but vibrations of gravity, entire symphonies felt in your bones instead of your ears. Or maybe their art is alive. They grow paintings. They breed living canvases that shift and change with time. Imagine walking into an alien gallery where every piece breathes and ages and eventually dies. Even their idea of beauty might be unrecognizable. Here we admire symmetry, balance, colour. But maybe aliens adore the opposite: chaos, asymmetry, raw randomness. What if to them, the most beautiful thing is something incomplete, broken, or ugly by our standards? It would remind us that beauty is not universal, it's local, cultural, deeply personal. Now here's a thought. Alien civilizations might not even exist at the same pace as us. We live decades, centuries at most for our cultures. But what if aliens live for thousands of years, or only days? Imagine a society where an entire civilization rises and falls in what we call a week, or one where elders remember 10,000 years of history as if it were last Tuesday. Time itself would shape how they build, plan, and dream. And war, oh yes, we always assume aliens fight wars. Because we do. But maybe they don't. Maybe cooperation is their default. Or maybe conflict exists, but in ways we can't imagine. Not armies with weapons, but subtle battles fought in thought, influence, or even biology. Entire wars that look like plagues spreading through populations, or shifts in the color of their skin patterns. Of course, there's also the possibility that alien civilizations don't last long. Maybe intelligence is a flame that burns too hot. Species rise, invent tools, reach the stars, and then collapse under their own weight. We might be catching the universe in its quiet hours, after countless civilizations have already risen and fallen, leaving behind only ruins or machines drifting in silence. But if some survived, if some are still out there, maybe they've become unrecognizably wise. Perhaps they learned patience on scales we can't fathom, waiting millions of years between decisions, watching stars drift like we watch clouds. Their wisdom wouldn't be loud, it would be silent, immense, and steady. And here's where it gets quietly humbling. If aliens exist, and if they've built civilizations far older than ours, then to them we might look like children. Not threatening, not interesting, just noisy toddlers banging pots together, convinced we're important. They might watch us the way we watch ants, curious, maybe even affectionate, but distant. So, if aliens exist, what would their civilizations actually look like? They could be glowing hives of connected minds, solitary wanderers, machine legacies drifting alone, or gentle philosophers with no need for rockets. They could paint with chemicals, sculpt with time, sing with light. Their beauty would be different, but it would still be beauty. And maybe, if we're lucky, one day we'll see it. But for now, it's enough to imagine as we drift slowly through our own quiet universe. So far, we've wandered through alien bodies, their senses, their possible civilizations, but what about something quieter, something deeper? If aliens existed, what kind of wisdom would they carry? Here on Earth, wisdom is often tied to age, to experience, to stories passed down. But what if aliens lived for thousands of years? What would patience feel like if a single lifetime stretched across entire epochs? Imagine asking a question and waiting a century for an answer, not because they're ignoring you, but because their thoughts move slowly, deliberately, like glaciers, carving mountains with time. To us, it would feel unbearable. To them, it would feel natural. And maybe wisdom for them isn't spoken at all. Maybe it's sung into the bones of their world, echoed in patterns of light, repeated in the tides of alien oceans, passed down not in words, but in instincts, in genetic memory. An entire species carrying the memory of its ancestors not in books, but in their very blood. Of course, wisdom also depends on perspective. Here we obsess over survival, money, fame. But to aliens, those might look trivial. Imagine a species that sees death not as an end, but simply as a transformation. Their wisdom might not be about clinging to life, but about letting go gracefully. Imagine meeting beings who consider us frantic, always running, always grasping, while they simply exist calmly, like stones resting in a river. Now here's a humbling thought. What if aliens see us the way we see animals? We think we're wise, clever, advanced, but maybe to them our greatest achievements look like toddlers scribbling with crayons. Cities of glass and steel might look fragile and foolish compared to what they build. Or worse, maybe they don't even notice us, because their idea of civilization is so different it doesn't even overlap with ours. And yet, wisdom isn't always about knowledge. Sometimes it's about mistakes. Aliens, if they exist, would have stumbled too. They might have had their own dark ages, their own collapses, their own regrets. And if they survived, their wisdom would carry scars. Scars not of flesh, but of civilizations burned and rebuilt. Now let's think about alien philosophy. Here we debate existence, purpose, the meaning of life. But what if aliens never wondered why at all? What if their philosophy isn't about purpose, but about rhythm? Not why are we here, but how do we flow? They might see life as a song, a pattern, and wisdom is simply staying in tune with the universe's melody. Or perhaps they see the cosmos as alive, not empty, not silent, but conscious in ways we can't detect. Every star a heartbeat, every planet a thought. Their wisdom might be about listening to the universe instead of dissecting it. While we look outward with telescopes, they might look inward with stillness. Of course, some philosophies might look unsettling to us. What if aliens believe individuality is an illusion? To them, wisdom might mean dissolving the self into the group, becoming part of a greater whole. They would see our obsession with I and me as childish, selfish, even dangerous. While we see freedom in separation, they see freedom in unity. And what about beauty? Here we chase sunsets, art, music. But alien wisdom might remind us that beauty is everywhere, not just in rare places. Imagine a being that finds beauty in decay, in rust, in silence. To them, even the quiet collapse of a star is not tragedy, but perfection. Now, let's drift for a moment into irony, because whenever we talk about aliens, we end up learning more about ourselves than about them. We imagine what they look like, what they build, what they value, and really, we're just holding up a mirror, reflecting our own fears and desires. When we picture aliens as conquerors, what does that say about us? When we picture them as wise teachers, what does that say about our longing for guidance? When we picture them as monsters, maybe it's just our own shadows starting back at us. And maybe that's the quiet wisdom of it all. Aliens, if they exist, may look nothing like we imagine, but in imagining them, we discover ourselves. Now here's a thought experiment. Imagine an alien philosopher sitting quietly on a distant world, not in a robe, not in a temple, but in whatever form wisdom takes for them. Maybe they are a tree, glowing faintly under alien moons. Maybe they are a vast cloud of consciousness drifting through storms. Maybe they are a single mind stretched across a network of beings. And in their quiet reflection, they think about us, not humans specifically, but about the possibility of others. And just like us, they wonder, what would they look like? Would they be kind? Would they understand? It's comforting, isn't it? To think that somewhere far away, another mind is wondering the same thing we are right now. And if that's true, then maybe wisdom is universal, not the same answers, but the same questions, questions whispered across the stars, soft, patient, endless. So if aliens existed, what would their wisdom look like? It might be slow, eternal, carved in stone or sung in oceans. It might be strange, dissolving individuality into unity. It might be unsettling or humbling or breathtaking, but whatever it is, it would still be part of the same universe that gave birth to us. A reminder that wisdom isn't just human, it's cosmic. So as we drift tonight, we can borrow a little of that perspective. We don't have to know the answers, we don't have to see the aliens. It's enough to ask the questions and let the asking itself carry us to sleep. So here we are, drifting at the edge of our long journey together. We've wondered about alien bodies, alien senses, alien civilizations, alien wisdom, and yet the question still lingers like a soft echo. If aliens existed, what would they actually look like? Maybe, to answer that, we need to let go of looking altogether, because sometimes the eyes can only distract. Sometimes beauty isn't in the shapes or the colors, but in the feeling something leaves behind. Imagine for a moment that alien life exists not in bodies but in patterns, ripples across the magnetic fields of stars, shifting currents of energy, not flesh and bone, not shells or scales, but living motion, beings that are never still, always flowing. To us, they'd look like weather, storms glowing faintly in alien skies. But inside those storms, there could be minds, thoughts moving like lightning, consciousness woven into clouds, drifting forever. Or imagine that aliens are small, so small we've already met them and never knew, maybe hidden in dust or clinging to the shadows of asteroids, creatures that survive in silence, in freezing voids, tiny, invisible, eternal. It reminds us that what they look like might depend entirely on how close we stand. From far away, a galaxy looks like a swirl of stars, but step closer, and it's billions of suns, each with its own worlds, its own stories. Maybe aliens are the same. From a distance, they look like dust, but close up, entire universes of life. Now, let's think about something we rarely consider: alien death. Here, life ends quietly, or sometimes painfully, but always personally. But what if aliens don't die individually? What if they dissolve into each other, their consciousness absorbed into the whole? For them, death might be less an ending and more a homecoming, like rivers flowing back into the ocean. If that were true, then every alien you meet would carry inside them the memory of everyone who came before, wisdom not passed down in books, but carried in their very being. They wouldn't just look different, they'd be different, living history itself. And now, let's drift outward again, to the quiet irony of it all. We spend so much time asking what aliens look like, but maybe they are asking the same about us, imagining strange creatures on a pale blue dot, two-legged, fragile, hairless beings obsessed with shoes and coffee. To them, we might be the aliens, the incomprehensible ones, the punchline of a cosmic joke. It humbles us, doesn't it? To realize that while we are wondering about them, they might be wondering about us. And maybe that's the real connection. Not what we look like, not how we live, but the shared curiosity, the quiet asking, the endless questions whispered across the void. Now, let's explore one last possibility. What if aliens don't look at all? Not in the way we expect. Because maybe life isn't always about form. Maybe it's about experience. Imagine a civilization of beings that exist only in dreams. Not solid, not physical, but patterns of thought, drifting between realities. They might visit worlds, not by ships, but by slipping into the dreams of others. And if you've ever had a strange dream of something you couldn't explain, who's to say it wasn't them passing through? Or imagine aliens made entirely of sound, waves humming through the universe, every vibration a body, every resonance a memory. They wouldn't need faces, or hands, or eyes. Their entire existence would be music, endless, eternal, shifting with the cosmos itself. Or maybe they are already here. Not as invaders, not as conquerors, but as quiet presences hidden in places we never look, in the patterns of trees, in the mathematics of snowflakes, in the silence between radio static, life, everywhere, just waiting for us to notice. And here is the final quiet truth. When we ask what would aliens look like, we are really asking what could life be? And the answer is endless. Life could be dust, it could be stars, it could be storms, it could be oceans, it could be machines, or dreams, or songs, or silence. But in the end, no matter what they look like, they would still be our cosmic siblings, made of the same stardust, born from the same universe, different branches of the same infinite tree. And maybe that's the most beautiful answer. Not what they look like, not whether they have eyes or limbs or wings, but that they exist at all, that the universe is not silent, but alive, in more ways than we will ever know. So tonight, as you drift into sleep, let yourself imagine alien eyes staring softly from across the stars, alien songs humming faintly through space, alien minds wondering about you as you wonder about them. And in that quiet, remember, you are not separate. You are part of it. The same atoms, the same stardust, the same universe, living, wondering, dreaming. So breathe slowly, let the questions fade into whispers, and let the quiet universe hold you as you drift into sleep. So far, we've floated through bodies, civilizations, and wisdom. But maybe the most important part of the question is simpler. If aliens exist, where do they live? Because no being is separate from its home. The landscapes, the skies, the oceans, the air, they all carve life into shape. Let's start with alien skies. Here on Earth, we take blue for granted, but skies can come in many colors. On a planet with a thicker atmosphere, the sky might glow orange at noon. On a world with twin suns, the sky might shimmer with double shadows, pink light crossing with gold. And under those skies, life would evolve with very different eyes, creatures that see in infrared, glowing softly under red suns, or beings with translucent skin designed to filter ultraviolet instead of blue. The sky above them would not just be background, it would be part of their identity. Now let's move to oceans. Earth's seas are vast, but alien oceans could make ours look like puddles. Imagine a world entirely water, no continents at all, just endless deep. Here, life might never walk on land. Creatures might be ribbon-like, glowing with bioluminescence. Their bodies would be soft, fluid, always drifting with currents. Intelligence might bloom in creatures shaped like squids, tentacles weaving patterns in water the way we weave words in air. But oceans aren't always friendly. On some planets, seas could be methane instead of water. Thick, dark, bubbling lakes where life breathes not oxygen, but chemicals. Imagine alien fish that glow green in liquid methane, their scales hard as crystal, their fins wide like sails, catching waves in seas that would kill us instantly. To them, it would be paradise. And deserts. Oh yes, alien deserts would be very different too. On Earth, deserts are sand and heat. But on alien worlds, deserts could be frozen plains of nitrogen ice, or endless salt flats reflecting alien suns like mirrors. Life here might be slow-moving, shells hardened against radiation, bodies built to store energy for decades without food. A single creature might crawl for a century before it dies, and to it, that crawl would feel complete. Now let's imagine forests. Here we know trees, tall, leafy, green, but alien forests could glow. Imagine black leaves absorbing every scrap of light under a dim red star, or crystalline trunks that grow upward like glass towers, refracting sunlight into rainbows. The creatures living there would camouflage to match, glowing softly at night, blending like shadows by day. Every step through such a forest would feel like walking in a dream. And mountains. On Earth they're stone, carved by time. On other worlds they might be ice mountains, glistening under strange suns, or magnetic peaks humming with energy, pulling metal-rich creatures toward them. Perhaps alien animals evolve with natural iron in their blood, drawn to mountains like compass needles. Their entire migration patterns ruled not by food or water, but by magnetic hunger. Now let's think of alien weather. Here we have rain, snow, storms. But in other places, rain might not be water at all. It could rain molten glass on hot worlds, tiny shards glittering down from the sky like deadly diamonds. Or it could snow methane crystals, piling into dunes under pale suns. Or it could storm lightning so vast it arcs across an entire hemisphere, leaving patterns glowing in the air for days. For creatures living there, these storms wouldn't be disasters, they would be normal, even beautiful. Alien beings might dance in glass rain the way children splash in puddles. And then, alien nights. Here, nights are dark with a gentle moon, but on other worlds, nights could glow. Imagine a planet with multiple moons, each casting a different coloured shadow, or worlds with skies lit constantly by auroras, shimmering curtains of green and purple woven endlessly above. Life under such skies would be nocturnal not by necessity, but by joy. Now let's wander further, to worlds unlike anything we know. A gas giant with no solid ground, only endless clouds and storms. Life here would float, balloon-like beings drifting on currents, never landing, never resting. Or a rogue planet, drifting alone in the dark with no star to warm it. Life here might glow from within, feeding on geothermal energy. Creatures of fire in an eternal night. They would never know sunlight, never see a sky, only darkness and their own faint glow. And yet, to them, it would be home. Now let's pause for a moment, because what all these alien environments remind us of is simple. Life doesn't fight against its world, it flows with it. Aliens, whatever they look like, will always carry the fingerprints of their planet, just as we carry the fingerprints of Earth, our eyes shaped by sunlight, our lungs shaped by oxygen, our skin shaped by weather. We are Earth's children, and aliens would be children of their own strange, beautiful, dangerous, breathtaking homes. And maybe that's the deepest answer of all. If aliens exist, and if you want to know what they look like, don't look at them. Look at their world, the skies they live under, the oceans they swim in, the storms they survive, because life and home are never separate. So tonight, as you drift off, imagine yourself walking beneath an alien sky, two suns setting together, painting the horizon in violet and gold, or swimming through a sea that glows softly with creatures brighter than lanterns, or standing in a forest of black-leaf trees, whispering in a wind you can't feel. What would you look like if you lived there? How would your body change? How would your senses bloom? How would your soul feel? Maybe. The truth is, aliens are simply what happens when life learns to dream in different places. And maybe we are aliens too, just Earth's version of the same story. So far, we've wandered through bodies, senses, homes, and wisdom. But if aliens exist, they wouldn't just live alone in silence. They would connect, form bonds, build stories. Because no matter how strange life becomes, connection always finds a way. Let's start with something simple. Relationships. Here, we think of family, friends, love, all the messy, beautiful threads of being human. But what if aliens weave those threads differently? Maybe they don't form pairs like we do. Maybe their bonds come in threes, or sevens, or entire clusters. Imagine a species where one being alone feels incomplete, and so they join together in groups, like chords in music, harmony only existing when multiple lives play together. To us, it might look like polygamy or confusion. To them, it's balance. Or maybe they don't bond at all. Imagine a being that is whole within itself. It never feels loneliness, never craves another. It drifts through its world complete and content. We might pity them, but perhaps they'd pity us. Always needing others, always hungry for connection. And love. Ah yes, we always project love onto aliens. The idea of romance, passion, devotion. But what if their love isn't about emotion? What if it's about resonance? Two beings vibrating in perfect synchrony, like tuning forks. They wouldn't kiss or hold hands. They'd hum together, glow together, merge their thoughts until the line between them fades. Or maybe love doesn't exist for them at all, not as a separate feeling. Instead, every interaction carries connection. Every meeting is infused with care. No special word for it, no pedestal, just life itself. Now, let's drift toward art, because where there are minds, there is always expression. But alien art could be incomprehensible to us. Imagine an alien artist who paints with sense, entire masterpieces created from layers of aroma, a gallery not filled with colors, but with perfumes, each one a story, each one an emotion. To us, it would smell overwhelming. To them, it would be beauty itself, or perhaps art is living. They might grow their sculptures, living creatures bred for beauty, glowing gardens designed to shift with time, art that breathes, sings, ages, and dies. To them, permanence might not be beautiful, impermanence might be the masterpiece. And music. Here we use sound, vibrations of air. But aliens might make music with light. Entire concerts of glowing patterns across their skin, rhythms of brightness pulsing like drums. Or maybe with gravity, whole symphonies felt in the body, not heard in the ears. Imagine lying in an alien hall, your bones humming as waves of gravitational music pass through you. Even silence could be art, a performance where nothing is done, no sound, no motion, only presence. And for them, the beauty would be in the waiting, in the shared stillness. Now, myths and stories, because no civilization, however strange, can resist telling stories. Here we speak of gods, heroes, monsters. But what if aliens tell stories about stars themselves? Perhaps they believe stars are ancestors. Every light in the sky a soul watching over them. Or maybe their myths see planets as living beings, siblings drifting together through space. Imagine a culture where the sun is not worshipped as a god, but as a companion, where nightfall isn't feared, but cherished, the time when the universe itself whispers secrets only they can hear. And religion. Here, religions are often about creation, morality, afterlife. But for aliens, spirituality might not separate life from the cosmos. It might simply be about flow, aligning with the rhythms of their world, the tides, the storms, the stars, not worshipping a deity, but listening to existence itself. Or maybe their spirituality is mathematical, equations seen not as tools but as holy scripture. Each formula a prayer, each calculation a step toward communion with the universe. We would call it science, they would call it sacred. And what if aliens don't believe in gods at all? What if their spirituality is rooted in each other? The act of connection itself, the merging of thoughts, the sharing of lives. For them, heaven might not be a place, but a state of perfect unity, a return not to a deity, but to one another. Now here's a thought. We often imagine alien religion as strange, exotic. But maybe they'd look at ours and find it strange. The idea of kneeling to invisible beings, arguing endlessly over interpretation. They might wonder, why do humans fight so fiercely over stories, while they themselves simply live their myths quietly, without division? And myths always come with monsters. Here, we invent dragons, demons, giants. But alien monsters might be cosmic. They might tell stories of black holes that devour souls, or of comets that bring not destruction but rebirth, or of voids in the sky where the universe itself forgets. And perhaps their children fall asleep listening to tales of the dark silence, not with fear but with comfort, knowing that even endings are part of the whole. And finally, let's drift toward irony once again. Because when we imagine alien myths, art and love, we realize how much we're really talking about ourselves. We want aliens to love, because we love. We want them to create, because we create. We want them to believe, because we believe. But maybe the greatest beauty of aliens would be their difference, that they don't echo us at all. Maybe they don't write myths, because they don't need them. Maybe they don't paint, because their world itself is their canvas. Maybe they don't fall in love, because they are already complete. And in that difference, we'd finally see ourselves more clearly. So if aliens existed, what would their relationships, art, and myths look like? They could glow with love like light. They could sculpt with time instead of stone. They could pray through mathematics or through silence. They could tell stories not of gods, but of galaxies. And in every version, they would still be alive, still searching, still trying to make sense of existence. And maybe that is the one thing we always share. The need to connect, the need to create, the need to dream. Even across light years, even across unimaginable difference, life always finds a way to tell a story. So tonight, as you rest, imagine an alien somewhere far away telling its children a bedtime story too. Not about us, not about humans, but about the stars, And as their little ones close their glowing eyes, drifting into dreams, so do you, because stories, myths, and love are not human things, they are cosmic things. Imagine an alien species that does not count time in seconds or hours, but in the slow rhythm of stars. Every blink of their eyes is a century, every heartbeat is 1,000 years. To them, what we call history would feel like a single afternoon. Our wars, our inventions, our entire rise as a species would pass before they even finish a single thought. And how would they look if their lives stretched across the lifetimes of planets? They might grow slowly, their bodies built like stone, tall, unmoving, patient, or they might shift and adapt endlessly, wearing bodies the way we wear clothes. Each millennium a new design, a new experiment. Now imagine the opposite, a species that lives only a few days, their entire civilization rising and falling in the time it takes us to grow a houseplant. They would look vibrant, frantic, glowing with life that burns fast and bright. To them, we would look impossibly slow, like mountains trying to move. And memory, memory is where the differences grow even stranger. We carry fragile memories in brains that forget, rewrite, distort. But aliens might never forget. Every detail, every moment carved perfectly into them. A being that remembers the shape of every cloud it has ever seen, or the sound of every raindrop that ever touched it. How would such a creature behave? Would it be burdened, crushed under the weight of endless detail? Or would it be serene, carrying eternity as naturally as we carry breath? And then, imagine the opposite again, a being that remembers nothing at all, living fully in each moment, every instant brand new. They would never carry guilt, or regret, or longing. But they would never carry love in the same way either. Every meeting would be the first, every goodbye the last. A life lived as pure present. Some aliens might share memory, not in books, not in digital files, but through themselves. When one dies, another inherits its memories directly, an endless chain of consciousness stretching across time. To them, individuality would blur. Every alien would be both old and new, ancient and newborn, all at once. And what if they record memory differently than us? Not in sound or image, but in landscapes. Imagine a culture that writes its history in the way it shapes rivers. Every curve of water a sentence, every mountain cut a chapter, their planet itself a memory, read only by those who know how to listen, or perhaps they weave memory into light. Every story a constellation, every star a word in a sentence spanning the sky, generations staring upward, reading the heavens like pages of an infinite book. Time and memory would not only shape their minds, it would shape their faces, their bodies, their very being. A creature that remembers everything might have vast, deep eyes, endless pools of knowledge, while a creature that forgets constantly might look bright and fresh, always youthful because nothing stays long enough to weigh it down. And then there is the question of aging. Here, bodies wrinkle, bones weaken, minds dim. But alien aging might be completely different. What if they grow more luminous as they age, every year adding glow to their skin until elders shine like lanterns across their world? Or what if age makes them transparent, fading slowly until they dissolve into air, memory dispersing with them? Or what if they grow heavier, denser, until they sink into their planet itself, becoming part of the stone, part of the soil, guardians sleeping within the world that birthed them? Some might even live cyclically, dying, dissolving, and then reforming again. Not reincarnation, but literal cycles of body. Imagine a creature that blooms like a flower, withers, crumbles to dust, then blooms again from that same dust. Their face is never quite the same, but their essence always returning. To them, death would mean little, only a pause before becoming again. And what about how they see time beyond themselves? We look at time as a line, beginning, middle, end, but aliens might see it as a circle, everything repeating forever, or as a spiral, always looping, but never in the same place twice, or even as a web, infinite connections, every moment linked to every other. To us, confusing, to them, perfectly natural. If they see time differently, then they would look differently too. A linear being like us has faces that age, bodies that decline, but a circular being might show all ages at once, youthful eyes in an ancient body. A web-like being might not even have a single body, but multiple selves stretched across moments, all connected, all alive at once. And here's a thought that drifts quietly. What if aliens don't live in our time at all? What if they are out of sync with us, moving so slowly we don't notice them, or so quickly they pass like flickers in the corner of our eye, always here but never visible because we can't match their rhythm? It humbles us to realize that life might exist in front of us and we simply don't share a clock with it. We might be ants scurrying under the gaze of mountains that are alive, but too slow for us to see. Or we might be trees to creatures that live and die in the span of a heartbeat. They watch us, but we never move fast enough to matter. And what does that say about beauty? Would aliens shaped by slow time look calm, statuesque, serene, while those born to fast time look frantic, glowing, bursting with energy, one like a mountain, the other like fire, both alive, both beautiful, but so different we would hardly believe they share the same universe. Now think of how memory and time would shape their civilizations. A people that remembers everything would never repeat mistakes, but might never forgive either. A people that forgets constantly would live freely, joyfully, but never build anything lasting. A people that lives slowly would build wonders that take millennia to complete, entire cities carved from continents. A people that lives quickly might change their world overnight, burning through ideas faster than stars burn fuel. And in the quiet irony of it all, we realize that we are just one version too, shaped by Earth's clocks, by our own fragile memories, by lifespans that feel long to us, but are short in the universe's eyes. Our time makes us human, just as alien time would make them alien. So, if aliens exist, and if you ask what they would look like, the answer may not be in their faces or their bodies, but in how they carry time, in how they hold memory, in whether their eyes glow with centuries or with fleeting sparks. And maybe, in the end, the universe isn't about who looks strange and who looks familiar. Maybe it's just about rhythm. Different species dancing to different songs of time, some slow, some fast, some eternal, some momentary, and all of us, part of the same quiet orchestra, playing under the same stars. So as you rest tonight, breathe into your own rhythm, your own short, fragile, beautiful rhythm, because in the silence between galaxies, it matters just as much as any alien song of time. Imagine standing on an alien world, where the sunsets last for years, the sun drifting down so slowly you would grow old before the sky turned dark. Whole generations watching a single twilight unfold. Children born as the sky glows red, their children born under the same fading light, and still, the sun not yet gone. What would life look like under such skies? Beings with bodies tuned to patience, eyes that never hurry, limbs that move like tides. Perhaps they would grow tall and rooted like trees, or perhaps they would crawl slowly like glaciers sliding over stone. To us, they would seem frozen, lifeless, but in their own time, they would be alive with motion. Now, imagine the reverse, a world where the sun races across the sky in minutes, dawn, noon, and dusk flashing past in the time it takes you to breathe. Creatures here would never rest, always moving, always reacting. Bodies shaped for speed, for urgency, for living fast and dying young, their entire lives compressed into what, for us, would be an afternoon. And if such beings ever looked at us, they would see statues, unmoving, unchanging, perhaps even believe we were not alive at all. That is the quiet truth of time. It does not just measure life, it defines it. It decides what a body needs, what a mind becomes, whether you glow like fire or endure like stone. And memory, oh, memory twists the picture even further. Some beings might carry every memory they've ever lived, never forgetting, never losing. Their mind's vast archives of everything they've seen, heard, or felt. Imagine eyes heavy with centuries of memory, faces lined not with age, but with stories, too many to speak. But such a life could also be a burden. To remember every pain, every failure, every grief. To carry losses forever without the mercy of forgetting. Perhaps such beings would walk slowly, weighed down by invisible histories. Perhaps their art would be filled with sorrow, with longing, with the ache of memory too heavy to bear. And then, there could be those who remember almost nothing, life flowing through them like water, never staying, never lingering. Each morning brand new, each evening forgotten. They would live joyfully, freely, without regret, but also without continuity, without history. Every friend a stranger again tomorrow, every mistake repeated because lessons never stay. Would we envy them or pity them? Would we see them as blessed or as lost? And what about shared memory? Imagine a species where memory itself is not personal, but collective. Every being born already knowing the history of its people, not learned in school, not taught by parents, but alive inside them from birth. No forgetting, no teaching, no ignorance, only continuity, unbroken and unending. Such beings would look strange to us, their eyes older than their bodies, their faces holding wisdom before they even take their first breath. Children who never ask questions, because they already know the answers. But perhaps they would never laugh at surprise, never marvel at discovery, because nothing would ever be new. And then, imagine aliens who store memory outside themselves, not in books, not in computers, but in their world. Maybe their rivers carry memory in their currents, maybe their mountains hold memory in stone. Maybe every breeze whispers the history of their people, recorded in the particles of air. To walk across their world would be to walk through their story, their home, not just land, but living memory. And what about aging? Here, aging bends our bodies, weakens our bones, fades our faces. But alien aging could be entirely different. Maybe they grow more beautiful as they age. Each year adding colors to their skin, patterns to their body, like rings of a tree. The oldest among them glowing so brightly they light the night. Elders not hidden away, but shining as beacons. Or maybe they grow transparent, fading slowly until they dissolve completely into air. Not with pain, not with fear, but with peace. Every elder becoming atmosphere, surrounding their people forever. A gentle return, or maybe they grow heavier with age, denser, thicker, until finally they sink into the ground, not dying, but becoming part of the land itself. A mountain here, a stone there, the very landscape shaped by the bodies of ancestors. Imagine walking across such a world, knowing the hills and valleys beneath your feet are the elders themselves, and time could even cycle. Some aliens might bloom and wither endlessly, dying, dissolving, and then returning again in new form. Not reincarnation, not memory carried, but literal cycles of body. To them, death would mean nothing, only a pause, like seasons turning, like tides. And if aliens see time differently, then their entire philosophy would be different too. We see time as a line, birth to death, beginning to end, but maybe they see it as a circle, repeating endlessly, or as a spiral, looping but never in the same place. Or as a web, infinite, connected, without direction. To us it would be strange, confusing. To them, it would be truth. And what would they look like if shaped by such views? A circular being might carry many faces at once, eyes that seem ancient and newborn at the same time, bodies that never fully age, never fully fade. While a web-like being might not even exist in one body, but in many, stretched across time, one consciousness living in countless forms, across countless moments. And maybe, just maybe, some aliens don't even exist in our time at all. Perhaps they move too slowly for us to see, like mountains alive but shifting over eons, or too quickly, flickering past us in moments we dismiss as illusions, always here, but never caught in our perception. It humbles us, doesn't it? To realize that alien life might not be hidden by distance, but by rhythm. We simply don't move to the same beat. And maybe the question isn't, what do aliens look like, but what song of time do they dance to? Some slow and endless, like stone, some fast and bright, like fire, some repeating, like seasons, some scattered, like stars, and together, all of us, just different instruments, in the same quiet orchestra, playing under the same infinite sky. When we ask what aliens might look like, we usually imagine bodies, arms, legs, eyes, shells, wings. But what if the real question is quieter, not about shape, but about feeling? Because bodies can be endless. But what makes a being alive is the way it experiences its world, the pulse of emotion, the whisper of thought, the weight of awareness. Here on Earth, we know joy, fear, sadness, love. But those are only human versions of much deeper currents. Perhaps aliens would swim in oceans of emotion we've never touched. Or perhaps they would swim without emotion at all. Imagine a species that never feels fear. What would they look like? Their bodies might move boldly without hesitation. No shivering in the dark, no shrinking from the unknown. They would walk into storms as if they were sunshine. They would leap into the unknown without trembling. To us, they would seem fearless, godlike. But maybe, without fear, they would also never know courage, never feel the triumph of surviving danger, their faces calm, their eyes unshaken, but their lives lacking the fire that fear can spark. Now, imagine the opposite, a species that feels only fear, every step burdened with caution, every sound a warning, their bodies small, eyes wide, limbs twitching with endless anxiety. To us, they would seem fragile, pitiful even, but maybe that fear would keep them alive far longer than boldness ever could. Maybe their wisdom would come not from daring, but from patience, always waiting, always watching, always surviving, and joy. We laugh, we smile, we sing when joy fills us. But what if aliens express joy differently? Perhaps their bodies glow when they are happy, skin shimmering with radiant colors, entire landscapes lighting up as communities celebrate. Or perhaps their joy is quiet, a stillness that settles over them, not jumping, not shouting, but sitting perfectly calm, like lakes unbroken by wind. There could be species where sadness isn't hidden, but beautiful, where grieving bodies grow luminous, tears falling as sparks of light that feed their soil, mourning not a private sorrow, but a gift to their world. Imagine walking through a forest glowing faintly at night. Every flicker of light, a memory, a goodbye, and love. We speak of love as romance, passion, devotion, but what if aliens don't fall in love with individuals? What if they fall in love with places, beings whose devotion binds not to partners, but to landscapes, to rivers, to mountains, to skies? When they whisper affection, it is not "I love you," it is "I love this valley, this storm, this star." Or perhaps they fall in love with groups, not one-to-one, but one-to-many. Imagine a being who can only feel complete when surrounded by its entire community. Alone, it feels hollow, but together they burn with warmth. Love not as exclusivity, but as inclusion. Or maybe their love isn't even an emotion, but a merging, a literal joining of thoughts and bodies. Two beings fusing temporarily into one, their feelings not spoken, but experienced together. No misunderstandings, no secrets, just shared existence. And anger. We flare, we fight, we shout. But perhaps alien anger doesn't burn. Perhaps it freezes. A silence so deep that even the air seems to stop. Their bodies still, their voices gone, until the weight of that stillness itself crushes those around them. Or perhaps anger erupts not in violence, but in creation, a furious being carving, building, growing, pouring its rage into art, into structures, into storms of invention. Anger not as destruction, but as fuel. Now, consciousness. Our minds feel like a single stream, thought flowing one after the other, but alien minds might not be streams. Imagine a being whose consciousness is many, not one self, but dozens, hundreds, each thought a separate voice. Inside their heads a chorus, debating, harmonizing, contradicting. To us, it would look like madness. To them, it would be clarity. No decision ever made by one alone, but by all the selves within, or the opposite, a being with no self at all, just perception, reaction, flow, like a river, alive, aware, but never asking, who am I? It would look peaceful, untroubled by identity, but perhaps also unknowable to us, because we cannot imagine life without an I. And dreams. We drift into them each night, stories stitched from fragments of memory. But what if aliens never sleep? What if their consciousness is unbroken, endless, constant? Would they envy our dreams, or see them as weakness? Or what if their dreams are their true lives? Awake, they move through routines, but in dreams they gather, they live, they build their true civilization. Their waking world, a pale shadow, their dream world, the real one. And what if their dreams connect, every mind meeting in shared visions, joining together when their bodies rest, dreams as public squares, temples, entire societies formed in sleep, to us a fantasy, to them as ordinary as breathing. Some aliens might not separate inner and outer worlds at all, no difference between thought and reality. What they imagine simply is consciousness itself shaping the world around them, bodies shifting with moods, landscapes bending with ideas. To us, it would look like magic. To them, it would look like daily life. And how would they appear to us, if shaped by such emotions and minds? A being that glows when happy, that weeps sparks when sad, that falls silent when angry, a being whose face is always many, always shifting because its mind is many, or a being that never changes, always calm because it has no self at all. To us, alien emotions might look like weather, light glowing, storms rising, winds settling, visible, tangible, alive, not hidden in words, but carved into their bodies, their skies, their worlds. And then, the irony. We imagine alien emotions, but in truth, we're circling back to our own. We ask, what would they feel? Because we want to know, are we alone in feeling? And maybe that's the answer, even if they don't feel like us, even if their joy glows instead of laughs, or their sadness feeds soil instead of tears. The fact that they feel something, anything, is enough to remind us that feeling itself is not human, but universal. So if aliens existed, what would their emotions and consciousness look like? They might glow with joy, freeze with anger, dissolve into each other with love. They might carry many minds, or none at all. They might dream together, or never dream at all. And in every version, they would still be alive, still aware, still swimming through the strange sea of existence. And as you drift tonight, you can imagine them drifting too, somewhere far away, glowing softly with joy or weeping sparks into the soil of their world, somewhere, minds not like ours, and yet still awake under the same stars. We often imagine aliens traveling like we do, ships, engines, rockets blasting through the void. But maybe alien journeys would not look like journeys at all. Think first of migration. On Earth, birds cross continents, whales cross oceans, butterflies cross countries. So why not aliens, moving with the rhythm of their planets, their stars? Perhaps their entire civilization migrates together, following the tides of energy, the pull of cosmic seasons. Not cities fixed in stone, but cities that walk, drift, or float across their worlds. To them, home would not be a place, but a direction, always changing, always moving. And what if their journeys stretch beyond their planets, not through rockets, but through biology? Imagine a species that grows vessels like seeds, living pods that drift into the sky, carried by winds, lifted into orbit and out into space. Not machines, but grown starships, breathing, glowing, alive. To us, they would look like jellyfish drifting in the cosmos. To them, they would simply be family, traveling together across the void. Or maybe their travel is even stranger. What if they don't move their bodies at all? What if their minds can travel instead? Projecting across light years, touching distant worlds without leaving their own. Exploration not in footsteps but in thought. They would see other planets, visit other beings, but never physically arrive. Ghostly explorers, always present, never touching. Now, think of aliens shaped by their environment to travel in ways we can't imagine. On a gas giant, life might float forever. Their journeys would be migrations through layers of atmosphere, rising and sinking with winds the size of continents. To them, moving upward might be like us climbing mountains, and sinking lower into denser layers might be like us diving into oceans. Exploration not outward into stars, but inward, deeper into their endless skies. On ocean worlds, journeys might never leave the water. Beings drifting across entire planets with currents, never walking, never landing. Exploration for them would be about depth, descending into trenches so dark and crushing they feel like other worlds entirely. Perhaps they glow as they travel, leaving trails of light behind like comets through water. And on desert worlds, journeys might mean survival. Beings walking endlessly between oases, guided not by maps but by stars. Their bodies designed to store water for years. Their faces shaped by sand, their movements slow, measured, eternal. To them, travel itself would be a kind of worship. Every step honoring the struggle of existence in endless wasteland. Now let's think bigger. Interstellar journeys. How would aliens cross between stars? Perhaps they never use machines at all. Maybe they hitch rides on comets, attaching themselves to icy travelers that wander from system to system. Generations born and dying while their frozen ship drifts silently through the void. Entire civilizations living not on planets, but on the backs of wanderers. Or maybe they don't ride comets, they are comets. Life adapted to ice, to rock, to drifting through endless dark. To us, a dead object. To them, a cradle of existence. Their journeys lasting millions of years, and to them feeling like moments. Or maybe they are spores, scattered across the galaxy by winds of starlight, radiation, or explosions. Each spore carrying life, drifting until it finds a world to seed. Travel not chosen, not planned, but inevitable. Every supernova a gardener, scattering life into the soil of the galaxy. And what if alien journeys aren't physical at all? Maybe they travel through dimensions we cannot see, slipping sideways into hidden layers of reality. To us, it would look like they vanish. To them, it would look like walking through a door. Or perhaps their travel isn't about distance, but about becoming. A species that doesn't move, but transforms itself to match wherever it is. Bodies shifting with new worlds, new suns, new skies. Instead of carrying themselves across the galaxy, they allow the galaxy to carry itself into them. And then, there is the question of purpose. Why do they travel at all? Here, we travel for curiosity, for survival, for conquest, for wonder. But maybe aliens travel for entirely different reasons. Perhaps they wander not to see, but to be seen, to scatter their presence across the galaxy like a song, reminding the universe it is not empty. Perhaps they travel only once, not back and forth, not round trips, but forever outward, never returning. A one-way pilgrimage into silence. Or maybe they do not travel by choice, but by compulsion. a biological rhythm pulling them outward, generation after generation, never knowing why, never questioning, just moving, because the universe has written motion into their very being. And how would such travelers look to us? Perhaps tall, spindly, nomadic beings, carrying their homes on their backs like living caravans. Perhaps glowing creatures drifting like lanterns across the skies of other planets. Perhaps invisible presences, never arriving in body, but always whispering across the stars. And perhaps, the strangest of all, some alien journeys might end not in new places, but in new selves. Travel not outward, but inward, into consciousness, into awareness, into transformation. Every journey a step closer, not to other worlds, but to becoming something else entirely. And in that, we see the quiet irony again. When we imagine alien journeys, we are imagining our own longing, our restlessness, our hunger to move, to see, to discover. And maybe that is the real truth, that the universe itself is restless, always moving, always changing, always becoming. So if aliens exist, how would they travel? They might walk across deserts, float through skies, dive through oceans. They might ride comets, drift as spores, dream themselves into other stars. They might never leave their worlds at all, or they might leave and never return. And whatever form it takes, travel would shape them, just as it shapes us, because journeys are not only about where you go, but about who you become along the way. So tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine yourself not just here, but traveling, floating on the back of a comet through endless dark, or glowing softly as you drift across alien skies, or dreaming your way into another star. Because in the end, the question isn't how aliens travel. The question is whether, in some quiet way, we are already traveling together. Different paths, same universe. Different journeys, same endless road. When we imagine alien technology, we picture machines, steel ships, blinking lights, engines roaring through space. But maybe alien tools would look nothing like ours, because technology is not just gears and circuits. It is anything a being uses to shape the world. And life in the universe might shape its worlds in ways we could barely recognize. Picture a species that never builds machines. Instead, it grows them. Ships that are alive, like great glowing whales swimming through the dark. Their skin shimmering with light, their bodies humming with energy. They breathe, they heal, they carry their travelers gently across the stars. Not built, but nurtured. Not launched, but born. Or imagine tools that are not separate from the body at all. Beings whose hands can change shape into whatever they need. A hammer, a brush, a scalpel, a key. Their tools not carried, but grown instantly as part of themselves. Technology not external, but internal. And then there could be species that shape tools from sound, their voices sculpting reality, vibrations splitting stone, weaving patterns, carving structures. Every song a tool, every hum a machine. To us, it would look like magic. To them, it would look like building with breath. Some might use light, beings who bend photons into patterns, weaving lasers into nets, carving holograms solid enough to touch. Their tools invisible to us, but to them brighter than stone or steel. A civilization of builders who need no materials, only light itself. And perhaps there are aliens whose technology is memory. Not wires, not engines, but thought itself. They could sculpt landscapes with ideas, move objects with intention, record history not in books, but in the very soil of their planets, where every step leaves a memory that can be replayed. To us, it would feel like dreaming. To them, it would be daily work. Now, let's drift to power. Here we burn fuels, split atoms, harness the wind and sun. But aliens might tap into stranger wells. Imagine a species that feeds directly on starlight. Their technology nothing more than mirrors and prisms, focusing energy into rivers of light that power everything. Or beings who harvest the heat of planets. Cities glowing softly above vast magma veins, powered not by wires, but by the breathing of their world. Or perhaps they draw energy from living beings themselves, not exploitation, but communion. Every creature offering a little pulse of energy, shared freely, a civilization literally powered by its people. And what if their tools aren't solid at all? What if their technology is liquid, vats of shifting fluid that can become anything they need, harden into walls, soften into cushions, expand into wings? A single ocean of tools, reshaped endlessly. To us, it would look like chaos. To them, it would look like infinite possibility. Or maybe their technology is even stranger. What if their machines are invisible? Built not of matter, but of fields, magnetism, radiation, quantum threads, tools that leave no trace, no sound, no shape, but guide planets, bend light, weave energy as softly as we weave cloth. And then comes the question of scale. Our tools are built to fit our hands, our cities, our world, but alien tools might be far smaller or far larger. A civilization of microscopic beings might build tools smaller than dust, nanoscopic machines we could never see, their greatest inventions floating unnoticed in our air. Or a civilization of giants might build tools the size of moons, engines wrapped around planets, machines stretching across galaxies, technology so vast we mistake it for nature, stars arranged, galaxies bent, black holes sculpted like clay, to us, random, to them, deliberate. And here's the quiet irony. What if we've already seen alien technology, but because it doesn't look like a machine, we never recognized it? A strange pattern in starlight, a drifting object we call an asteroid, a nebula shaped too perfectly. Maybe these are not natural at all. Maybe they are tools, but tools made by minds so different from ours, we will never recognize their fingerprints. Now, let's drift further to alien communication tools. We use words, screens, signals. But aliens might never invent language as we know it. Perhaps they speak only through shared vision, one being touching another and instantly showing them an image, an entire story, without a single word. Or perhaps their communication is chemical. A civilization whose libraries are scents, whose poetry is perfume, whose debates are storms of aroma filling the air. Or perhaps they speak through silence itself, a quiet so dense, so profound, that it carries more meaning than sound ever could. And how would that shape their technology? Their tools would not be keyboards or microphones or radios. They would be gardens of scents, or networks of glowing patterns, or chambers designed only to hold silence. To us, strange. To them, perfectly ordinary. And then, alien medicine. We cut, sew, inject, replace. But aliens might heal in ways beyond imagination. Imagine beings who heal by singing to their wounds, every note reweaving flesh, every chord knitting bone. Or beings who heal by merging with others, sharing cells, tissues, memories, until the wound is gone. Or beings who never heal at all, because they never break. Their bodies endlessly regenerating like rivers, like fire. To us, miraculous. To them, mundane. And finally, alien art as technology. Here we separate art from tool, beauty from function. But perhaps aliens never did. Their ships might be sculptures, their medicine might be music, their cities might be grown forests, glowing like stained glass. Every tool beautiful, every invention artful, every piece of technology an expression of soul. And maybe that is the greatest difference, that for us, technology often looks cold, sharp, mechanical. But for aliens, it might always look alive, soft, glowing, organic, not separate from them, but part of them. So if aliens existed, what would their technology look like? It could be grown, not built. It could be sound, light, memory, or silence. It could be invisible, liquid, microscopic, or cosmic. It could be art and function woven together until they are the same thing. And in every case, their tools would not just shape their worlds, they would shape themselves. Because technology is never neutral, it always changes its creators. And aliens, however strange they might be, would be shaped by their tools just as we are shaped by ours. So, tonight, imagine not ships of steel, but whales of light drifting through the stars, not engines roaring, but songs weaving machines into being, not tools of metal, but gardens, forests, oceans, memories, all alive, all breathing, all carrying life across the endless quiet. And maybe, just maybe, as you close your eyes, you can hear them humming softly, the sound of alien tools at work, not frightening, not loud, but gentle, as if the universe itself is still building, still creating, still dreaming. When we ask what aliens might look like, we usually think of skin, eyes, wings, shells. But perhaps the truest picture of them is not their faces, but their ideas, because how a species thinks about existence inevitably shapes how it appears, how it lives, how it moves through the universe. Here on Earth, we ask questions like, why are we here? What is the meaning of life? And our answers spill into philosophy, religion, art, and science. But aliens, living under other skies, breathing other air, dreaming other dreams, might answer very differently. Imagine a civilization that sees life not as separate, but as one. Every being, every plant, every storm, every stone, part of the same vast self. To them, individuality might be a kind of illusion. Their philosophy might not even include the word I. Their bodies might reflect that too. Perhaps translucent, overlapping, blurring into each other. No hard edges, no separation. A living reminder of their belief that all is one. And then imagine the opposite. A species that sees individuality as the highest truth, every being sacred in its separateness. Their philosophy built not on unity, but on difference. Each life unique, each path a treasure. Their bodies might mirror that, endlessly varied, never two the same. A celebration of difference written into their very forms. Some aliens might believe existence itself is cyclical, that life is a wheel turning forever, birth, death, rebirth, without end. Their philosophy would see no tragedy in endings, no despair in death, because to them every ending is only a beginning again. Their bodies might carry symbols of cycles, rings, spirals, shifting colors that repeat through generations. To see them would be to see motion, even in stillness. Others might see existence as linear, a path with a beginning and an end. Their philosophy might center on progress, on moving forward, on reaching a destination. Their bodies perhaps sharp, angular, built for momentum. Their art filled with lines, arrows, direction, always pointing to something beyond. And still others might see life as meaningless altogether, a cosmic accident, a dream with no reason, no script. But instead of despair, perhaps they would find joy in that, freedom in the lack of purpose, beauty in the absurd. Their philosophy might be playful, humorous, light. Their bodies perhaps flamboyant, colourful, whimsical. Because when nothing matters, everything can be enjoyed. Now, let's drift into their ideas of morality. Here, we speak of right and wrong, justice, kindness, cruelty. But morality is only what a species needs to survive together, so alien morality might look nothing like ours. Imagine a hive species, millions of beings working as one. For them, morality would not be about individuals, but about the hive's survival. Self-sacrifice would not be noble, it would be ordinary, expected. Their bodies would mirror that, perhaps small, similar, uniform. No one designed to stand out. Every being a piece of the greater whole. Or imagine a species of solitary wanderers, each life lived alone, each survival personal. Their morality might not include sharing, kindness, cooperation. Their wisdom might not even have words for generosity. Their bodies would be rugged, independent, built for self-sufficiency. To us, they might look cold, selfish. To them, they would look complete. And what about time itself? Our philosophies obsess over beginnings, creation myths, gods, first causes. But aliens might not care about beginnings at all. Maybe they care only about presence, the eternal now. Their philosophy might not ask, where did we come from, or where are we going, but only, what is this moment? Their bodies might show it too, shifting constantly, never fixed, never looking back, living embodiments of impermanence. Others might worship beginnings obsessively, believing creation is the only sacred act, their lives devoted to building, birthing, planting, their bodies perhaps carrying multiple ways to create new life, new things, new forms, a philosophy of endless genesis, never content with what is, always chasing what could be. And endings. To us, endings carry fear, sadness, loss. But perhaps some aliens see endings as the highest beauty. Their philosophies teaching that everything's value comes from its impermanence. Their art might be made to dissolve, to vanish, to crumble gracefully. Their bodies perhaps designed to fade too, glowing brighter with every year until they finally burn out into silence. And what about the stars? Here we look upward for meaning, gods in the sky, destinies written in constellations. But to aliens, the sky might not be a mystery, it might be a home. Their philosophies might not worship stars, but treat them as family. The night sky for them not distant, but intimate. Every point of light a relative, every galaxy a memory. Their bodies perhaps glowing faintly too, carrying the same fire inside that they see above. Or perhaps their philosophy doesn't look upward at all. Maybe they find meaning not in the stars, but in the soil. In roots, in depths, in what lies below. Their art carved underground, their myths whispering of hidden worlds beneath worlds. Their bodies shaped for burrowing, tunneling, feeling the weight of Earth around them. Not sky worshippers, but Earth listeners. And then comes the question of truth. We chase truth like a prize, a treasure waiting to be discovered. But maybe aliens don't see truth as fixed. Maybe they see it as fluid, changing with perspective. Their philosophies might teach that truth is like water, shaped by whatever holds it. Their bodies perhaps reflecting that, fluid, shifting, adaptable, never fixed. To us, they would look unstable. To them, they would look wise. Or perhaps they see truth as silence, not something to be spoken or proven, but something only felt. Their philosophers would not write books, but sit in stillness, teaching through presence alone. Their bodies quiet too, expressions calm, movements minimal, living embodiments of truth too deep for words. And finally, meaning. We ask what life is for, but maybe aliens never ask that. Maybe to them, life simply is not a task, not a mission, not a puzzle, just existence itself, enough, complete, whole. Their philosophy might not be filled with questions, but with acceptance. Their bodies relaxed, unhurried, faces calm, eyes soft. The look of beings who never doubt that simply existing is sacred. And maybe that is the answer we keep circling toward. That alien philosophy might look different in 1,000 ways. But at its core, it would still be the same attempt we make. The attempt to understand what it means to be here, to live, to feel, to wonder. So if aliens exist, what would their philosophies look like? They could worship beginnings, or endings, or neither. They could chase truth, or dissolve into silence. They could see life as one, or as many, as progress, or as play, and in every form, they would still be philosophers, still asking, still searching, still wandering under the same stars we wander under. And as you drift tonight, you can imagine them sitting far away, alien thinkers, glowing softly, or whispering through sense, or simply waiting in stillness. Their philosophies strange, their meanings alien, but their questions familiar, because meaning is not a human thing, it is a cosmic thing, and the asking of it is perhaps the most beautiful look of all. Every life, no matter how strange, eventually asks the same question: what comes next? Here on Earth, we think of endings as death, a last breath, a final silence. But in the cosmos, endings can be many things: collapse, transformation, transcendence, or sometimes simply change. Imagine a species that does not die in the way we do. Instead, they molt, shedding their bodies like old clothes. Each time they grow new forms, brighter, sharper, stranger. Not reincarnation, not rebirth, but continuation. Their landscapes filled with husks of past bodies, empty shells like monuments to who they once were. To us, it would look eerie. To them, it would look natural, as ordinary as our hair falling or our skin peeling. Or picture beings who do not leave behind bodies, but dissolve, their forms breaking apart into glowing particles that drift upward into the sky, like fireflies rising until they vanish into the night. To their people, death would not be tragedy, but beauty, a final gift of light, rising back into the stars. And then, there are endings that are not endings at all, species that merge into each other as they age, individuals slowly drawn together until they fuse. One mind, one body, many lives becoming one. To us, it might seem like loss of self, but to them, it would feel like completion. Every elder not fading away, but becoming greater, fuller, whole. Now imagine a species whose bodies never wear down, whose cells never age, whose wounds always heal, immortal in flesh. But perhaps their minds cannot hold eternity, memories piling up until they collapse under their own weight, and so they choose to let go, to erase. Their endings not in death, but in forgetting. Elders walking calmly into rituals of release, allowing memories to fall away like autumn leaves. Their bodies still alive, their minds fresh and empty, beginning again like children. Endings as renewal. And what of evolution? Species do not only end, they change. On Earth, change is slow, generations shaping form over ages. But perhaps elsewhere, change is swift. Aliens who can alter themselves within a lifetime. A society where no two generations look the same. Every century a new species, every millennium a new form. To us, it would look unstable, fragile. To them, it would look natural, the only way to endure a universe that never stops changing. Others might evolve not by choice, not by nature, but by design. Beings who shape their own descendants deliberately, guiding their evolution as we guide crops or animals. Their bodies chosen, sculpted, designed, until their future selves look nothing like their past. And perhaps, one day, they design themselves out of flesh entirely, becoming pure thought, pure energy, pure pattern, not living in bodies, but in the quiet rhythm of the cosmos itself. And maybe, some aliens end not as species, but as civilizations, not with death, but with silence, fading slowly, quietly, until nothing remains but ruins. Cities buried in dust, songs forgotten, tools rusted into soil. And yet, even in silence, traces remain, a sculpture here, a light there, a whisper hidden in the stars. To us, they would look gone. To the universe, they would still be present, shadows stretching across eternity. And what of transcendence? The idea that endings are not ends, but transformations beyond form. Imagine a species that grows so wise, so ancient, that it no longer needs bodies at all. They dissolve into light, becoming part of their stars, not dead, but ascended, beings of radiation, drifting across galaxies as whispers of energy, to us, invisible, to them, eternal. Or perhaps they ascend inward, turning away from the universe, sinking deeper and deeper into their own minds, until their civilization becomes dream only, their bodies still, their world quiet, but their inner cosmos infinite, an ending of outward motion, a beginning of inner eternity. And then there is the strangest possibility of all, that some species choose their own endings, not forced by nature, not demanded by time, but chosen. When they feel their song is complete, they simply stop singing. When they feel their story is told, they close the book. Not tragedy, not despair, but peace, a decision to end gracefully before being ended by force. And how would such beings look if endings shaped their lives? Perhaps luminous, fading brighter and brighter until gone. Perhaps fractured, bodies molting endlessly, leaving layers behind. Perhaps still, motionless, eyes closed in eternal dreaming. Or perhaps absent entirely, their legacy only in echoes, in ruins, in faint shadows against the stars. Endings, strange, varied, inevitable, and yet, in them, beauty, because the universe itself is endings. Stars die, galaxies fade, black holes evaporate, and in each ending, something new is born. Nebulas glowing where suns once burned, planets rising from ashes, life itself a child of stellar death. So perhaps aliens, no matter how strange, would see endings not as something to fear, but as something to honor, not as a wall, but as a doorway, not as silence, but as a different kind of song. And as you rest tonight, you can imagine them too. Beings of light dissolving into stars, beings of memory fading into silence, beings of thought drifting into dreams, each ending different, each ending beautiful, and in their endings a reminder that we too are part of the same story. The story of beginnings and endings, the story of stardust, the story of life. Every time we ask about aliens, what they look like, how they live, what they feel, we are really asking about ourselves, because our minds cannot escape our own reflections. When we imagine aliens as conquerors, it is our fear of conquest speaking. When we imagine them as saviors, it is our hunger for guidance whispering. When we imagine them as monsters, it is our own shadows staring back at us. Perhaps the strangest thing about aliens is that in all our stories of them, we rarely leave Earth at all. Think of the little grey figures with big heads and dark eyes. Are they really alien? Or are they just us, exaggerated, heads swollen with intelligence, bodies thinned by technology, not visitors from another world, but projections of what we fear we might become, brilliant but frail, connected but lonely. And when we dream of noble spacefaring civilizations, wise, ancient, peaceful, are we really describing aliens or describing our longing? The hope that somewhere out there someone has already solved the problems we cannot. War, greed, cruelty, despair. We imagine them solved, not by us, but by someone greater, because we want to believe it is possible, even if we cannot yet do it ourselves. Even our alien monsters are mirrors, insect-like swarms that devour worlds, beings that consume without thought, without care. But isn't that exactly what we do here? Cutting forests, draining oceans, reshaping our world with hunger that never ends. Our nightmares of aliens are often our own reflections, sharpened and made strange. And what of beauty? When we picture aliens glowing, elegant, angelic, isn't that just our own idea of perfection, painted across the stars? A longing for symmetry, grace, harmony, not necessarily what exists, but what we wish could exist. It humbles us, doesn't it? To realize that in imagining aliens, we are mostly studying ourselves, our fears, our hopes, our weaknesses, our pride. Aliens become a canvas, and we paint ourselves across them. But perhaps that too is a kind of truth. Because even if aliens look nothing like our stories, the fact that we imagine them at all says something important about us. It says we are restless, never content with what we know, always reaching beyond the horizon. It says we are imaginative, able to dream not just of what is, but of what could be. And it says we are lonely, longing for connection, for recognition, for others under the same stars. Even our science is touched by this mirror. We look for Earth-like planets, not because aliens must live there, but because we want to see ourselves repeated. We search for oxygen, water, familiar climates, because we cannot yet imagine life beyond the patterns we know. And yet, every time we try, our own boundaries stretch. We imagine life in methane seas, in frozen deserts, in endless skies of gas giants. And in imagining, we begin to see more clearly how fragile, how precious, how strange our own existence is. So what do aliens really look like? Perhaps the answer is simple. They look like us. Because when we imagine them, we cannot help but use our own reflection. But at the same time, they do not look like us at all. Because the universe is wider, wilder, and stranger than anything our minds can hold. And whatever life is out there, it will not be a copy of us. It will be something new, something beyond, something our mirrors cannot contain. That tension between self and other, between reflection and reality, is what makes the question beautiful. Because in asking it, we discover not only the possibility of them, but the reality of ourselves. Perhaps that is the real purpose of alien stories. Not to prepare us for contact, but to prepare us for introspection. To ask not only what do they look like, but what do we look like? And are we content with what we see? Imagine aliens watching us, not from ships, not from hidden bases, but simply from afar. What would they see? A species capable of kindness, but also of cruelty, of brilliance, but also of destruction, of dreaming beyond the stars, while struggling to care for the ground beneath their feet. Would they see us as children, still stumbling, still learning, still making mistakes? Would they see us as dangerous, unpredictable, chaotic, too restless for our own good? Or would they see us as beautiful, fragile beings daring to imagine more than their world offers? We cannot know, but the asking itself is its own kind of answer, because to wonder about them is to reveal who we are, and maybe that is the greatest gift of the alien question. That in looking outward we look inward, that in dreaming of them we discover ourselves. So if aliens exist, what would they actually look like? They might look like us reflected back, or they might look like nothing we can imagine. But either way, they remind us of something simple, that we too are alien. We too are strange. We too are a story written in stardust, living briefly, shining brightly under infinite skies. And as you drift tonight, you can let that reflection soften, because whether or not they exist, we exist. And in this quiet universe, that is already miraculous. We have wandered far together, through alien skies and oceans, through strange bodies, glowing skins, endless eyes, through civilizations of hives and wanderers, through wisdoms older than time, through philosophies of beginnings and endings, through futures bright, dark, and endless. And always, the same quiet question echoing beneath it all: if aliens existed, what would they actually look like? Now, as we reach the end of our journey, perhaps the truth is this: they would look like everything we've imagined, and nothing we've imagined. They would be strange, but also familiar, distant, but also close, because in every vision of them, we have been glimpsing ourselves. Think of the alien bodies we pictured: tall, heavy, crawling under gravity, light, floating like kites in thin skies, glowing with joy, weeping sparks of sadness, merging with love. What are these if not possibilities already hidden in life we know? Fish that glow, birds that migrate, creatures that regrow. The universe does not need to invent new rules, it only reshapes the ones it already wrote. Think of the alien civilizations we imagined: hives of unity, wanderers of solitude, dreamers who live more in sleep than in waking. Were they so different from us? We too live in swarms, in crowds, in networks. We too wander alone sometimes. We too dream together in stories, myths, screens, and songs. Think of the alien philosophies we pondered: life as cycle, life as line, life as play, as silence, as freedom. Were those not echoes of our own debates? Haven't we too wondered if meaning is in beginnings, endings, or in the simple act of existing? Aliens may answer differently, but the asking, the reaching, is the same. Think of their endings, bodies dissolving into light, shells left behind like monuments, memories released like autumn leaves. Even here, on Earth, do we not see the same? Stars dying to create new worlds, trees shedding leaves to begin again. We too dissolve into soil, into memory, into silence. And perhaps that is not tragedy, but the most cosmic thing of all. So perhaps the real answer is quiet. Aliens, whatever they look like, would still be made of the same stardust we are, still children of the same ancient fire, still bound by the same laws of time, space, change, and wonder. Maybe they look nothing like us, and maybe they look exactly like us, but either way, they remind us of something we often forget, that we too are aliens. We too are strange, fragile, temporary forms drifting in an endless cosmos. We too are part of the great experiment of life, writing itself across stars and oceans and soil. So as we close this long journey, let us return to stillness. Imagine yourself drifting now, not on Earth, not even in your bed, but floating gently through the quiet universe, past nebulae glowing like watercolor spilled across black canvas, past stars pulsing like heartbeats in the dark, past silent planets, each one carrying its own secrets, past comets with icy tails that whisper through the night. Everywhere you drift, there is life. Maybe visible, maybe hidden, maybe waiting. But whether we see it or not, the universe is alive, in its stars, in its silence, in its endless dreaming, and you are part of that dream too. So breathe slowly. Let your thoughts dissolve into the quiet. Let the weight of the day fall away, and let yourself drift, like a comet, like a spore, like a star. Endless, soft, at home in the vastness, because in the end, the question of what aliens look like does not need an answer. The act of wondering is enough. The asking itself is the bridge between us and them, between the known and the unknown, between Earth and the quiet universe beyond. So rest now, under the same stars that shine on them, whoever they are, wherever they are, if they are, and feel the comfort of knowing that the universe is vast enough to hold all possibilities and gentle enough to hold you too. Imagine aliens watching us, not from ships, not from hidden bases, but simply from afar. What would they see? A species capable of kindness, but also of cruelty, of brilliance, but also of destruction, of dreaming beyond the stars, while struggling to care for the ground beneath their feet. Would they see us as children, still stumbling, still learning, still making mistakes? Would they see us as dangerous, unpredictable, chaotic, too restless for our own good? Or would they see us as beautiful, fragile beings daring to imagine more than their world offers? We cannot know, but the asking itself is its own kind of answer, because to wonder about them is to reveal who we are. And maybe that is the greatest gift of the alien question, that in looking outward, we look inward, that in dreaming of them, we discover ourselves. So if aliens exist, what would they actually look like? They might look like us, reflected back, or they might look like nothing we can imagine. But either way, they remind us of something simple, that we too are alien, we too are strange, we too are a story written in stardust, living briefly, shining brightly under infinite skies. And as you drift tonight, you can let that reflection soften, because whether or not they exist, we exist. And in this quiet universe, that is already miraculous enough.